What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're getting into my Week 9 NFL Power Rankings. Another crazy week. We are about the halfway mark with the halfway week of the season, which is wild. But anyway, let's get into these power rankings here. Starting out with number 32, dropping down a spot, we have the Arizona Cardinals. The team that we all knew was the worst team coming into the league. Not a lot of people didn't pick the Cardinals to be their worst team, and here they are. Josh Dobbs gets benched. It seems like he's getting benched. He just did not play well at all in this game. So, yeah, the Cardinals they're not a good team. They are the worst team. They're the youngest team right now. Kyler Murray might be able to change some things if he comes back in a couple weeks or whenever he'll come back. But, yeah, the Cardinals are the worst team in the league right now. And then 31, congratulations, Carolina Panthers coming out of that worst spot. You know, Bryce Young has really quieted the crowd. I think he is looking a lot more like, the first overall pick, what we thought him to be. He's really playing well for the options he's got. Adam Thielen is his number one receiver. The O-line is horrible. The defense is very much underperformed. So Bryce Young's really, I think, keeping this team from 31. He was the reason I think they won this game against the Texans. And yeah, that's why the Panthers, I think, are a better team than the Cardinals at this point. So yeah, the Panthers coming at 31. And then we got 30, the Giants just unable to finish a game. A difference between a 2-6 and 3-5 record might have been the difference between this team trading away Williams, who to the Seahawks. They got a good return for him for a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick. So, if you're the Giants, you like that. But this season's just not gone as planned. This team's just not good. Their defense has been very much struggling this year. The offense, getting -6 passing yards. The defense has kind of turned things on a bit, but it's just not enough to win football games at this point. So the Giants are going to be dropping down. Can't finish that game against the Jets, which was an ugly game all around. 29, we have the Chicago Bears jumping up a spot. The Bears this week, just Tyson Bagent gets absolutely destroyed this week by the Chargers. Justin Herbert looks a lot better. We'll get to the Chargers in a minute. But, for the Bears, the only reason I think they're coming up, they got Montez Sweat from the Commanders, which should help out this defense. This defense is trying their hardest. This team is trying to win right now. It's just not enough, though, for the Chicago Bears. They're still not a great football team, and Justin Fields is coming up back. So I do think this team's better than the Giants, and we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks. But this team's still just trying to evaluate Justin Fields and build towards next year, which is what they said last year. So it's just been kind of stuck in quicksand for the Bears the past few years, but they come in at 29. All right, 28, we have the New England Patriots staying at the same spot. They were decently frisky this week against the Dolphins, and I was debating flipping them with the 27th team here, but I'm going to keep them there. Mac Jones just, back to normal this week. I mean, this team's just not good on the offense. The defense just can't stop that good of an offense in the Miami Dolphins. It's just not a good football team by any stretch of the imagination. So the Patriots come in at 28. And then 27, we have the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have just really, really looked horrible the past few weeks. The reason why I'm keeping the Packers here at 27, they have talent on the defense, and I think this team looked really good earlier on in the year against the Bears. And their second win, I forgot who it was, but all I remember is they looked pretty well to start of the year. It's just been the opposite of that. They haven't been great. So, they've just been bad. It's time to fire Joe Barry. I do not understand why he has not been fired. It's just not a well-coached team right now. So the Packers come in at 27, staying right there. All right, and then we have the Las Vegas Raiders going to be dropping down into this bad tier. I was debating putting the Raiders in the bad tier. It's time to put this team in the bad tier. This team's just not great at all. Jimmy G just played bad on Monday Night Football. This offense didn't get anything going. The run defense just got ran all over by the Lions. They got some good pass rush capabilities, but that's about it. So the Raiders coming at 26, they're just not it right now, and they're a bad team at this point, in my opinion. And then 25, we have the Washington Commanders in the bad tier this week as well. I mean, Washington just continues to prove that this team just, they were competing against the Eagles this week, as they always do for whatever reason, but this team just showed, trading away Chase Young to the Niners earlier today and then Montez Sweat earlier today, that this team's just not ready. This team is done competing for this year. Sam Howell, they're still trying to evaluate him. He's playing decent. They have some weapons. It's a very similar team to the Raiders, but it's just not enough to win football games, and that's going to put them in this bad tier, I think. I mean, this team is just not great. They're a bad football team with the traits. They compete against the Eagles, as I mentioned, which give them their hats off, but it was really the start of that game with the Eagles kind of struggling a little bit that really made them compete. So the Commanders, those trades, I think, are going to really degress them. It was supposed to be a very good D-line this season. It was not the case. The Commanders really didn't exceed expectations or meet expectations. So Commanders coming at 26, dropping down a spot. Okay, so that ends that bad tier who's gone big this week. And then let's go to the decent tier here. Starting out with number 24, dropping down 3 spots, we have the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, they've been competitive, this week trying to compete against the Saints. But without Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew isn't going to win you all these football games. And then the defense, I really think they're well coached. They just ran into a bad matchup this week. It was just not a great matchup. They got really torched. And that's been the past few weeks, though, for the Colts, that their defense has underperformed against not the greatest offenses. Those mismatches that come up, it's going to hold a defense like that back. And like I mentioned, Gardner Minshew's not going to be able to put up 41 points or whatever to beat a team in a week. So the Colts, just a little bit of a wake-up call, I think, the past 3 weeks or so. They deserve to be down here at 24. I still think they're a very decent team, very well coached as well. All right, but then number 23, dropping down 3 spots, I have the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, that was just atrocious performance. Matthew Stafford this week, it's just not enough to carry them. He didn't look good at all. He just didn't look like the Matthew Stafford we've seen earlier this year. And then the deficiencies of this entire team comes up. The team that I was anticipating coming into the season showed up, and that was the Los Angeles Rams today. Just got bullied by the Dallas Cowboys. This team deserves to come in the decent tier for that performance, and I'm going to give it to them in the decent tier. So the Rams dropping down 3 spots here. An unfortunate week for them. All right, number 22, we have the Houston Texans staying at the same spot. Houston this week, just a tough loss to the Carolina Panthers. It was in Carolina, though. Carolina was desperate for a win, kind of a trap game, I guess. Bryce Young played really well against them. So C.J. Stroud, ran into a defense for the Panthers that, played a lot better. So the Texans, this team isn't, I think, what we've seen some people power ranking them. I mean, I've seen some absurd, 14 for Houston on one of them before this loss. I don't see it for the Panthers. I mean, they're still very young. They still have some deficiencies on this team that they need to figure out and continue to progress towards. This team has a good future, but right now they're just not that good of a team, and I just don't see this team making the playoffs this season. So Texans coming at 22, a little bit of a wake-up call, I think, to the Carolina Panthers. But this team, since I kept them at 22, that's where they deserve to be. And then 21, we have the Tennessee Titans jumping up 2 spots. My, oh my, Will Levis looks looked amazing this week. That's what you love to see if you are the Tennessee Titans, is a Will Levis. Believe it or not, Will Levis threw for 2 times the touchdowns that Tannehill has all season. Tannehill's thrown 2 touchdowns. Levis in one game threw for 4 touchdowns. That's just an absurd stat. And it's not even like Ryan Tannehill was playing all that bad earlier on this season. And then when you combine that with Derrick Henry's running ability, they really fed him in this game. The Titans are really dominated. I know they've been trading away some of their assets on the defensive end, but this defense is still solid. It's very well coached. That's what the Titans are. They're trying to tank, but they're how well coached they are just won't let them. And that's when the Titans come in at 21 here, jumping up 2 spots. They're a solid team. And then number 20, we have the Denver Broncos going to be taking a big leap up 6 spots this week, jumping up 6 spots. What a win for the Broncos this week. Going into the Chiefs, everyone counting on that. Patrick Mahomes trying to get his 17th straight win against the Broncos. In my predictions video, I wasn't having it. The Broncos, played the Chiefs competitively last year. These teams just played a couple weeks ago. When you have that, there's bound to be some adjustments made, and the Broncos made some great adjustments this week. That was a well-needed win for Russell Wilson and the Broncos. They get it. Their defense looked good. Wilson played like Russell Wilson. The Broncos, they deserve to come up. This team, if they can keep this up, I know they have a bye week next week, so they're gonna get rested. And then I think they play the Bills on a Monday Night Football game in a couple weeks. If this team can beat the Buffalo Bills, my Broncos hype entering into the season might have came to fruition. So the Denver Broncos jumping up 6 spots, well deserved this week at number 20. All right, so that is the decent tier. Let's get into the in the hunt tier. Starting with 19, we have the Buccaneers. I mean, it's just this is when the teams get tough to rank. The Buccaneers, can I see this team going on a run and making the playoffs? Of course I can, but this team's going to be staying at 19. That's why I'm keeping them in the hunt tier, because, Baker Mayfield struggled mightily. But this defense is still very solid. They have some weapons on offense. It's just a weird team to rank because they were solid. Baker Mayfield's just, he's just not it right now for the Bucs. He needs to figure some things out. If I see another bad performance from the Buccaneers, I got to move him down into the decent tier because he's just not the best quarterback. So the Buccaneers coming in at 3-4 just – offensively have really regressed the past few weeks. So there's the Bucs. And then at 18, we have the Atlanta Falcons. Just a similar team. You just don't know what to do with because they're in the NFC and in the NFC South where anything could happen. But Desmond Ridder just turning over the football. I just don't trust Desmond Ridder. He's just he's not great. He's turning over the football. He's making bad reads. It's Desmond Ridder's not the guy for the future. He was supposed to be, more of that decent quarterback coming out and not the highest ceiling. He doesn't have the highest ceiling, so I don't really know why you're sticking with him for the Atlanta Falcons. He's holding this team back. And then the defense for the Atlanta Falcons, fighting, but there's obviously their deficiencies there. But at 18, they deserve to stay at the same spot, I think, because of the NFC. This team is better than, I think, these decent teams at this moment. So they're going to come in at 18. But 2 teams back, and another team that's going to be really weird to rank at number 17, dropping down a spot, we have the Vikings in the playoffs tier. Just really, really weird to rank, these past 3 teams. And I think we're going to get to a few in here anyway. But the Vikings, just again, this week looks really solid. And then Kirk Cousins gets injured out for the season. He's been playing his best football. It just hurts for the Minnesota Vikings. He was really good. He's the reason why they beat the Niners. I think he was the reason why this team's 4-4 at this point. But the defense has still looked very solid the past couple of weeks. I really like what they're doing with Flores' unit. Has really, really stepped it up from a year ago. And honestly, I'm a Jaron Hall believer. They're going to start him this next week, which I think is going to be big for the Vikings. Jaron Hall has been was a really solid quarterback at BYU. And I think he's going to step up for the Minnesota Vikings. So, this team probably in a normal year, they probably dropping below, but do I think they're a worse team than the Falcons, Buccaneers, the Broncos? I don't think that the Broncos deserve to come up even more than what I put them at. So the Vikings, I think 17 is a fair spot for them. But again, it's just weird ranking some of these teams right now. Okay, then 16, we have the New York Jets dropping down a spot. The Jets this week, handled their business against the Giants. It was not looking good for a while there until they pulled out a miracle. Zach Wilson, give him 8, but he stepped up when they needed him to, and the Jets offense was able to do some things to get him against a decent Giants defense. So that was a classic Jets game. They deserve to come down because of the poor offensive performances, I think. I think a team deserves to come ahead of them here. But yeah, the Jets, pump the brakes. If you're thinking the Jets, you're going to move them down because this is just what the Jets do. They're an average team. They have a top defense and a bad offense, and that's just how they win games. All right, and then number 15, we have the Saints jumping up 2 spots. Offensively, just dominant this week. That's what you would love to see from the Saints. Getting that kind of mini bye from the Thursday night football game. I really like to see that from New Orleans. Derek Carr looked a lot better this week. The defense, the Colts did some things, but it's still the Saints defense. It's still the same defense that I think we know from them. So I think the Saints did a lot of good things this week. That's why I'm going to move them up 2 spots, 2-15. They deserve it, and they're going to come in there at 15. All right, and then the Steelers, number 14, dropping down a spot. I was debating moving this team below the Saints. I decided not to because Kenny Pickett gets injured in this game, and it looks like he should be back for the Thursday night football game. So the Steelers, that is unfortunate. The offense just was not able to run through Mitch Trubisky in this game, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for that one. The number 14 team from last week deserved to come ahead of them, though, as we'll get to them in a minute. But, yeah, the defense is still top tier for the Steelers. It's still a very Steelers team, same Steelers, I think, on that previous week that we really know them to be. So Pittsburgh at 14. We'll see how they look against the Titans on Thursday Night Football. And then 13, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers jumping up a spot. Yeah, they deserve to come ahead of the Steelers. Just more talent on this team. They got Justin Herbert. They got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the football. It's really the coaching that's just holding this team back. We all know that. At this point, it's just what the Chargers are. But they get a win this week. They beat down the Bears, a team that they were supposed to beat this week. So that feels nice, I think, for if you're a Chargers fan. And they're going to come in at 13 because of it. Okay, so now let's go to the playoffs tier. At number 12, we have the Buffalo Bills dropping down a spot, and I'm, good on you beating the Bills, the Bucs this week. At home, against a Baker Mayfield very much struggling on prime time. That's a game you're supposed to win. I'm not going to move this team back up into the contenders tier for that. They have a test this week against the Bengals that'll really show where I think this Bills team needs to be. But yeah, you get a win on Thursday Night Football. Congratulations, Buffalo. The defense looks solid, but they're going to be dropping down a spot here because I believe a team deserves to come ahead of them. And then number 11, we have the Cleveland Browns also dropping down a spot. This is a tough game. PJ Walker, and he's just not the guy for the Browns. In Seattle, one of the toughest places to play. This team was looking like they were going to win this football game for a while there. They just couldn't finish it. The defense is still, I think, the best in the NFL. Just an unfortunate loss. They ran into a good Seahawks defense and a good Seahawks offense that turned some things on this week. So, unfortunate loss for the Browns. My opinions really don't change in them. Again, a team I think deserves to come ahead of them for their performance this week. Okay, so really, little playoff tier there. Now we get to a big contenders tier here. Starting out with number 10, we have the Cincinnati Bengals jumping up 2 spots. And originally this team was going to come ahead of the Niners. I'm going to get to the Niners in a minute. There's 2 teams. We'll get to them. But the Bengals this week getting the win against the Niners, that's what you love to see. If you're a Bengals fan, this team's back. It seems Joe Burrow's playing really solid. Coming off the bye week, this offense looked great. The defense really played well, turning over Brock Purdy in this game. Welcome back, Cincinnati. You're back into the contenders tier. And this team's always done it in the past, just been a team that's, kind of struggled at the beginning of the year. Now they're turning it on. We'll see if they can keep it rolling. And then number 9, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars staying here at 9, at 6-2. Getting the win against the Steelers. The defense just dominant in this game, and that's what you like to see if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. The defense stepping up. Their defense continues to do so. They ran into a good Steelers defense. Trevor Lawrence did enough in this game. It's been a little bit of an inconsistent offense, but I don't think that's holding back the Jaguars right now. So they're going to be at 9. Good week for them to get a win against the Steelers. All right, and then we have number 8. We have the Niners. Originally, I was going to move this team, so if it wasn't for the Chase Young trade, it would have looked like this, with the Steelers, the Niners dropping down 6 spots to number 10, but they're going to drop down 4 spots to number 8. I mean, it was a rough game, for the Niners. Brock Purdy looking human. The defense looking human. The pass rush has kind of struggled the past few weeks. That's why they brought in a player like Chase Young. I think the Chase Young addition is going to really help out this pass rush, but you cannot deny the facts about the past 3 weeks for this team. This team deserves to come down. And yeah, Brock Purdy has not looked great. They are going to hopefully get back Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel soon, which is going to be big. They have a bye week. So, the Niners, it's just weird. I was really confident that I was going to drop down the Niners 6 spots because of the Chase Young trade, or before the Chase Young trade. Then that trade happens, and you kind of got to pump the brakes a bit and only drop them down 4 spots. That's just how these power rankings work, is you can't really make these huge shifts unless they're really warranted. And we always have that really warranted team like once a week. The Niners 4 spots is reasonable. Bengals 2 spots coming up is reasonable the way they've looked at the beginning of the year. So that's what I'm going to go with the 49ers, especially when they make a trade to help boost their roster. So Niners at 8 right there. That's kind of my backup there. The Niners, we know this team was dominant at the beginning of the season. Let's see if they can get healthy and get back to that form. But again, they deserve to come down. And as a Seahawks fan, I'm very happy to do that. All right, and then number 7, we have the Detroit Lions jumping up a spot at 6-2. Just looked a lot better this week against the Raiders. Jared Goff had a little bit of a rough game, but other than that, the defense really played well, stopped the Lions in this one. Or sorry, the who do you call it? The Raiders offense. I don't know what I was thinking there, but yeah, the run attack also. Jahmyr Gibbs really played well in this game. That's what you love to see if you're a Lions fan. So good week, good bounce back win this week for Detroit. Number 6, we have the Dallas Cowboys staying at 6, at 5-2. Dak Prescott and this team just dominant win against the or against the Rams. The Cowboys have these kind of performances week in and each week, where they just dominate a team. And I know they've had 2 ugly losses, which is kind of holding this team back. Can this team, in the playoffs put together 4 straight weeks and just dominate every team? I just don't know right now for the Cowboys. That's why I am going to put them at number 6. But still, the Cowboys, I like this team. Um, they got one of the most dominant rosters in the league. You got to give them credit. But I am going to move the Seahawks ahead of them, jumping up 2 spots to number 5. This isn't really because of the win. They got a win that I think they probably should have won. As a Seahawks fan, it was a very stressful game. But Geno Smith also looked pretty solid in this game. I know he has a few, plays in there with turnovers, but a little bit of those things were a little bit overestimated if you watched the game. Geno Smith, I think, played an excellent game for Seattle in against the Browns, against one of the best defenses in the league. I think this is really about the Quincy Williams trade and the Frank Clark signing that we weren't really able to get to last season. This really ups this pass rush for Seattle. The Nwosu injury hurt, but now you got Williams. You got on the inside, you got Frank Clark. You got Boye Mafe, who's really turning it on. You got Derek Hall, Darrell Taylor. It's a very solid rotation pass rush for the Seahawks. That's just very tough to stop. The linebackers, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner, playing excellent. We know how good this secondary is. Tariq Woolen getting involved in this game, making some great plays. Jamal Adams getting also a big part of that pass rush in this game. He was the reason why that ball got tipped way up and Seattle got a huge interception. So the Seahawks right now, I think they're a more consistent defense than a team like the Cowboys at this point on in the season. And Geno Smith is still, I think, playing great football. This offense has a lot of talent as well. The Seahawks getting a win over a good Browns team and get with those additions, this team I think deserves to come to number 5. And they, besides that Rams game in a Week 1 game, this team hasn't really had some bad losses. The Bengals are a good football team on the road. This team just wasn't able to execute in the red zone. They've kind of figured those things out. So Seattle going to come in at number 5 from that. All right, so that's a little bit of my Seattle rant. But then number 4, we have the Ravens jumping up a spot, coming ahead of the Niners this week as they deserve. Just smacking the Cardinals as they should have. Lamar Jackson and this defense looking great. And we're going to have an excellent game this week. Ravens, Seahawks, that's going to be must-watch football. This will be big in determining some of these rankings. But, yeah, the Ravens come in at number 4, jumping up a spot. And then number 3, dropping down, we have the Chiefs. They deserve to come down for losing to Denver. But I anticipated it, honestly. Patrick Mahomes, they're going to blame him for the flu. He had the flu. It was a cold game. This team, a little bit of a trap game scenario. The Broncos were hungry for a win at home to snap that, 16-game losing skid. So the Chiefs, just an unfortunate loss, but I'm not worried about Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes will be Patrick Mahomes. It seems like they always have this year in and year out. So I think the Chiefs will be just fine, and they're going to drop down a spot. But, yeah, the Chiefs coming at 3. Number 2, we have the Miami Dolphins. A lot more like it this week, just dominating the New England Patriots. Tua looks really solid in this game. This offense is dominant. But the big news, Jalen Ramsey coming back. That's a big addition to this defense with him coming back. He really made a big interception in this game. The Dolphins' defense has very much struggled this season, so getting him in there is going to be big, I think, and it came up in this game. We'll see how it affects against a much better offense, so you got to take that in mind. But, obviously the strengths of this team is their offense, and, as I think the best offense in the entire league. So at number 2, they deserve to come up a spot here above the Chiefs. It's close, though, but they're number 2. But then number 1, we have the Eagles, the only 7-1 team remaining, the only one-loss team remaining. They deserve it. That they were a little bit competitive against the Commanders, but, were able to weather that storm and come back in this game on the road. A Commanders team that's always given them fit, was the team that gave them their first loss last season. So, Eagles, big week, beat the Dolphins the week before. You can't forget about that. Jalen Hurts in this team. This team's just the most complete team in the league, in my opinion, at this point. So that's where the Eagles come in at number 1. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your power rankings. Anyway, guys, peace out.